Hey, it's Drybear. While playing Throne of Liberty, I've been asked many times what combination of weapons is best. And to build a foundation for that, I put together a list of all the skills that the weapons have that can work on other weapons in your offhand. So if you're someone who wants to play Greatsword as your main weapon, what are your other options for synergies? And of course, I've made a reference sheet for that as well. First, let's look at the reference sheet, and I'll have this linked down below in the description and in the comments for people that want to use it. But this is just a reference sheet that goes over 4 categories that I've identified: defense, sustain, synergy, and mobility. And everything on this list can be used by another weapon primarily, so that you get cooldown reduction. I've marked it by the legend up here in the top right corner. So white dots have cooldown reduction. There's a nice reset of cooldown for called Blitz from Longbow, which is super nice. Cooldown on sword and shield. And there's also cooldown on crossbow, which can be widely useful for any weapon in the entire game. Another big one is going to be health and mana recovery. The ones with blue dots here all have mana regen. So if you're someone who's running a healing build, or even a casting build, or someone with a heavy skill usage where you need a lot of mana recovery, these are going to be your best skills, the ones with blue dots from each of the weapons on screen. And then of course there's going to be damage reduction, healing. We know there's a lot of healing coming from the wand, and a lot of healing coming from like crossbow, longbow. This skill from longbow is amazingly good for support and team wide. And of course in this game you're going to want to have your DPS doing some support, some utility to keep everyone alive and support the group across that. And the biggest thing that I want to mention out of this list as well is going to be the threat one here, because I had so many people in my groups in the open beta talk about how they were using Greatsword as a main tank and they couldn't keep enough threat, enough enmity, enough aggro, enough aggression, whatever it is you want to call it, is the enmity that's required to keep mobs attacking you as the tank. There are only 4 skills in the entire game that generate threat right now, and they are all sword and shield skills, which means that realistically, to be a main tank, you have to have one of your weapons be sword and shield. And right now I would also extend that to be, if you're going to be a main healer, you have to have one of your weapons be the wand, because it has most of the healing abilities and synergies in the entire game. Additionally, there's some excellent defensive skill options that you can include as bonuses for either your group farming or solo farming. The smoke screen, the phantom smoke screen from daggers right here, is incredible. This skill gives you an evasion, a perfect evasion for 3 seconds for everyone in your party. So if you're running daggers, even as a DPS, it's going to help your teammates out a lot. There is a defense buff that wand can give to other people. There's also a shield that longbow can get when you're getting weakened as well, which can work great for tank builds. You could run sword and shield with longbow just for the regen, the cooldown resetting, and the extra shielding that you get from that as well. And the reason I think this is super important is because this is actually a pretty flexible multi-weapon skill set system as compared to many other MMOs on the market. You have essentially these 12 slots down here that you can slot skills in, and these 8 slots that you can slot passives in. And you can pick and choose as many combinations of these as you want, which means that yes, you can put 11 out of 12 skills down here at the bottom as one weapon type, and same thing goes for the passives. You can put 7 out of the 8 passives as one weapon, which means that only one active skill and one passive skill is a different weapon. Everything else is one weapon specifically. So if you want to specialize and be a super big caster from staff, you can certainly do that, and then you just have to pick one active skill and one passive skill from another weapon to combine with you. But if you want to mix and match these to create your own playstyle, there's a lot of flexibility in being able to put these together, and that's why I think a reference sheet like this is useful, because it says, well, I'm playing this character, I'm playing this weapon, and I find that I'm not getting enough cooldown reduction in order to keep my skills resetting. Where can I find cooldown reduction that will help me get through that? Or I'm struggling with mana. I keep running out of mana. What are the skills like asceticism or mana amp or even inner peace on the staff is one of the best weapons in the game for generating mana. I can run staff in my offhand to keep that mana flowing so that I can keep using my skills as much as possible. There's also a lot of synergy skills in the game that are broadly usable across other weapon types. So for example, Curse Explosion from wands is super useful. What this does is when you use Curse Explosion on a target, it will detonate all burning, all curse, and all poison damage on the target for a big burst of damage. Well, guess what? Curse is a wand exclusive. Burning primarily comes from staves, and you can also do poison from daggers, which means that you can run a dagger wand build that focuses on poison and curse and detonate with high focus on curse explosion as a build. That's a full functional build. You can use inject venom, you can use profuse poison, curse bonuses as well for curse duration, which can be really, really cool. Wraith's Beckon, all of that synergizes together to make that build. You can also run staff and wand if you wanted to do burning along with this. And there's also some abilities like the Infernal Meteor that applies burning. All of the lightning skills like Judgment Lightning or even Chain Lightning will do bonus damage to targets that are burning, which is super useful. And this list can help you make a decision between the defensive skills as well, because some of these, you know, like the dagger, the defensive skill like the block for dagger will give you mana regen back. You can get a heal from the wand. The sword and shield can also give you a nice heal recovery, which gives you that bonus. And maybe you swap these in and out as you're soloing or running group content as you need different options. So having a reference sheet can be useful there. Then down at the bottom, I've also marked all of the mobility skills in the game. Wand and longbow don't have any that are that function as mobility, and I've put a yellow dot on the ones that are actually, they displace your character. These are the dash or a teleport or some kind of relocation. And this is super useful, like the frost smoke screen for staff allows you to jump back and create a frost patch in the area. The rescue here, the salvation chain, can actually pull a target like rescue in Final Fantasy XIV. You can also get a dash forward with crossbow, a forward charge with greatsword, a blink strike with daggers to teleport behind the target, or a shield dash. And why is this useful, you ask? Because we have tons of effects in the game that will trigger after using a mobility, and this is the mobility category. So if you use an ability like Shadow Strike, which counts as mobility, it teleports you behind the target, and you have something like Shadow Walker that says after using mobility, you will get evasion. There are abilities that give you bonus damage after mobility. There are abilities that give you cooldown after mobility. So knowing which ones will displace your character to trigger these effects can be useful. The ones in the mobility category that don't have yellow dot are simply just either movement speed or some kind of burst of speed here. It's actually really cool. You can get the Barbarian speed from Greatsword, which gives you movement speed. You can also get movement speed coming from daggers, and there's even movement speed bonuses from like crossbow or staff. And on top of that, even the reset here, like you have the Blitz ability from longbow, which will reset your your most recently used cooldown. That I think can be widely used on any build in the game. So you use a cooldown, pop Blitz, and then use that same cooldown again. This sounds pretty busted. It doesn't seem like it has any restriction on anything that you have in the game, which means you can use your biggest cooldown, reset it, and do it again, as long as you have longbow as an offhand. But you can also run staff if you wanted to, and staff has a really nice ability called high focus. This makes your active cooldowns regenerate faster for 12 seconds, and it gives you movement speed. So if you're running a build that focuses on high movement speed or gives you bonuses based on how fast you're moving, or you want some CDR that's very, very generic and global, running high focus from staff can be a really huge boon to that kind of build. I also think it's useful to reference the HP regen. So we know that crossbow has a self heal on their defensive. We know that longbow has a group-wide heal. This HP regen from longbow is very good. Greatsword has an awesome group-wide heal for HP regen as well. You have a bunch of heals from wand and a bunch of heals from sword and shield. And I think this makes sense too, because you can have your main weapon, say you're a crossbow user, and you wanted to swap in a wand or swap in a sword and shield anytime you're doing solo questing or solo grinding. It gives you a nice amount of survivability. You might lose some damage options with other synergy skills, like with longbow or something like that, but it does give you a nice amount of survivability so that you can just, you know, go through the grind up. If you get attacked in PvP, you can defend yourself and keep yourself alive while still using your favorite main weapon. Some of these synergy skills too trigger off of special effects. So we know the lightning skills from staff will deal bonus damage when a target is burning. We can also do bonus damage based on secondary weapon, or also based on our offhand weapon for that for crossbow. We can also do bonus damage when targets are stunned or bound from greatsword and sword and shield, which means you can run with combinations that bind. If you find a skill that binds, you can run it with those abilities on those weapons and have great synergy there. These three skills from dagger will do bonus damage if the target is weakened poisoned. So if they're poisoned, you get bonus triggers off of that as well. Wand can even do bonuses based on if they're cursed or if they have a weaken on them, which is even greater. Or having that detonation from poison, burning, or the curse means that you can run any one of those weapons in a dot build to give bonus. And there's even a dot bonus ability in wand. So you could totally run a poison plus wand dot build, a staff plus wand burning build, or a curse focus build with wand for bonus damage off of that as well. There's also some really cool synergies which I have on the sheet as well, like annihilating slash from sword. Even on great sword there's some bonuses here, like with the big guillotine slash. This one does bonus when targets, so damage to prone or shocked targets is increased. There's plenty of other weapons besides great sword that can shock and also that can prone, which is nice. And you can weaken the target as well, reducing heal on that. But you also have things like sword with this ability here, annihilating slash. If you have weakened the target, and almost every weapon in the game can apply some form of weaken, frost, slowing an enemy's movement speed, poison, burning, curse, all count as weakens, things like that. You can pop to your sword and shield if you weaken them yourself and do a whole bunch of damage using annihilating slash, and then switch back to your main process, because that works into the flow of what your build is actually doing. Now, there are some decent survivability mechanisms in the game, but I marked the ones that give damage reduction exclusively, which can be super useful for surviving. You get a shield from the longbow. Like, actually, this skill, the last passive in the longbow tree, is something that I want to see how high this shield grows, because it just means that every time you get weakened, you have a chance to give yourself a health shield. I can even imagine people running sword and shield and longbow as a tank build, and then running this, that every time they get weakened, especially in PvP, where you're gonna get weakened all the time, anytime an enemy dagger user poisons you or you get slowed, boom, big shield popping up on you. Imagine this one's going to be super useful in PvP. But there's some nice ones like the Bastion or the Indomitable for sword and shield. Some bonuses like the extra armor from Greatsword, or the big shout that you can give to your teammates, which is great. There's even a rallying cry coming out from Greatsword that makes things so much easier and so much cleaner. There's actually a true rallying cry for sword and shield, which gives you effective HP for not only yourself, but everyone else in the party as well. And this sort of thing is what I would use to create builds or connect things together or put all the dots in the right place. So hopefully this was useful for you. A reference sheet for you on all the skills in the game and what, where you can put those together, or if you need a quick swap to a weapon or a weapon set in specific situations and you're looking for one thing in particular, hopefully this sheet serves you well. Let me know if there's other guides you'd like me to cover on Throne and Liberty or beyond down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.